Hi, everybody. It's Bob Phibbs, the Retail Doc. We're here at Manhattan Associates Momentum 2025 in Las Vegas. I got three more amazing experts to talk about supply chain. And I know before you think like supply chain is boring, today Target just announced a miss in earnings. And I don't know about you, but I was just on an interview. And the number one thing I see when I go into Target is what? Empty shelves. That's like all of your nightmare, right? Empty shelves. That would be a terrible thing. Well, before we get too far, we need to introduce who these gentlemen are. So I'm going to ask you to start with your name, title, and give me one word about how your team is feeling about supply chain right now.
So my name is Bart de Monk. I'm an independent advisor, industry expert, been in the industry for over 30 years. One word, I would say frightened.
Frightened. Okay, nice.
Frightened. That's a good one. Ryan Gifford, I'm the Senior Director of Supply Chain Planning Solutions here at Manhattan Associates, been a practitioner for the past 20 years. If I were to use one word, I would say agility.
Oh, frightened, agility. Okay.
Miles Tedder, Chief Supply Chain Officer at Pet Supplies Plus. My one word would be excited. I just think there's a lot of possibilities and many things available in front of us, and I'm excited to be part of it and look forward to it.
So we're excitedly frightened and agile.
That's it.
Okay, I like that. All right. So Ryan, first off, the truth is that shoppers don't care what broke down, right? They just care that what they want wasn't there at the time I wanted to buy it. And so connecting that planning and execution isn't really a luxury anymore. It's how you keep promises to your customers. So what's the real business value of bringing these two systems together?
Well, yeah, when you've got disparate systems, inherently you're going to have silos, right? A miscommunication in the way that things communicate. I like to think of supply chain planning and execution as like a dance. We're both trying to achieve very similar goals, but we're going about it in different ways because the responsibilities lie in different spaces. And so if you're not moving in a coordinated effort, like a dance, then you're going to end up with results that are probably a little bit disjointed and disconnected.
So where does that happen? I mean, are they really that far? Are they like different offices? Are they in different parts of the world? I mean, what allows that to happen? Because as you say that to me as a novice, it's
Sure.
like that just makes sense.
Yeah, well, supply chain execution, we've got logistics planning, we've got warehouse planning, we've got labor planning components. And when you think about the supply chain planning portion of this, we've got to come up with the forecast. We've got to work with our suppliers on getting the right pricing and making sure that our must arrive by dates are met and our commitments are met, right? So providing service level has a lot of different pieces engaged in that and meeting customer satisfaction. But we're all building different plans. Somebody in warehouse is building a labor plan and a capacity plan. They need to understand what the inventory is, and they historically haven't had much visibility to that.
Because we're still operating sometimes like we're at the 60s or 70s.
That's right.
Where you couldn't do that, right?
Well, and yeah, a lot of people are using antiquated solutions to try and solve very complex modern problems.
We're talking your name, retailers, all those Frankenstein systems behind the way that maybe replace an Excel spreadsheet, or you're still doing it in some departments, right? Trying to go through and unify those is a big lift, isn't it? So, Miles, I know you're there with Pet Supplies Plus yesterday. You had a great quote: "We want to optimize everything and waste nothing because anything goes wrong, it's your fault, my friend." You have the best laid plan in the world, but if your store teams or warehouse can't execute it, is it just a fantasy to think that you can get it through? Or I mean, what finally pushed you to unify your execution and planning? Because you got 730 stores. That's a big one to meet.
Yep. A lot of opportunities for disappointment that we want to make sure we always capitalize on. Quite frankly, with us, it's like I said yesterday, when you make a plan, the one thing that's guaranteed, the plan is going to change almost immediately. So what we have to do as supply chain management professionals is figure out how to make consistency and standardization out of chaos. I mean, every day we have so many opportunities to disappoint our customers that we have to use the systems and tools available to us to make sure that we're able to deliver on those promises and meet the commitments. For us, it was really about, to the earlier conversations, the disparate silos, the antiquated systems, Excel spreadsheets. One group works on a plan, gives it to another. Then there's, the back and forth iterations, and then further down the supply chain, people are trying to, make heads or tails out of it. And, oh, by the way, there's changes that come about every day. So with, especially the Manhattan Active Supply Chain Planning application, for once, that vision is reality and everything is in one platform now. And that's what drove us to make the decision to, be at the forefront of getting on that platform so that everything from planning and inventory management, all the way through execution and even the feedback loop. Everything's on one platform. I don't think anyone else is doing that right now, and we think it's the right wave of the future.
I want to circle back to that for a minute. I want you to try to think back. What changed? What day was it where you finally said, "We've got to pull the trigger"? What bubbled up? It wasn't just you came to work and you said, I think we're just going to make a major investment in technology and change everything about the way we're doing it. That's not something you do lightly.
Probably the easiest way to say it is that we as a company wanted to be, cloud forward and have all of the applications we could in the cloud. We also wanted, I call it application portfolio simplification. We like to make sure we have the minimum number of applications, maximize their use so that instead of having 37 slides with logos on them, we've got one slide with 4 key partners, Manhattan being one of them. And I think the salient date for us was, I'm going to say early July 2019, when Manhattan made a phone call and said, we're there, it will be in beta. Are you willing to have a conversation? But we're ready to go down this journey of a Manhattan Active Platform. They were already demonstrating it on the store order fulfillment side. So we were pretty confident in the technology and Manhattan's capabilities to bring it to life. And that's when we made the decision. That was the starting point.
Well, I love that. So all of you, again, that sounds like, oh, that was an easy decision. But first off, they had to be such a good client that they made the call to say, hey, you're probably pretty good for this, and be willing to say, and we're willing to go there with you because we value that relationship. So bravo. I love that. I love that. Bart, I know I am having you on the panel here for your experience. So we used to plan season in advance, right? Mm-hmm. That would be great. Wouldn't that be luxury? Now it's day to day, whether it's social media or whatever. And so how do you build this ecosystem that can give you agility in real time without everybody being frightened all the time of what could go wrong? And why is this alignment more urgent now than it's ever been? And you have 1 or 2 sentences. Here you go.
Oh, I would say a couple of different things, but yeah, I would say one is have visibility to data, right? That's very important in a platform to have access to the data so you understand what's going on, get that data in real time so you can react to it. Then you have to have the mechanisms, which is a combination of technology and process, to then react in real time to it and then go and execute. That's a lot to be asked. So it's not just enough to have the whole platform. It's also how do you have a platform that feeds the data between all the functions and where people can really rally together and collaborate on that platform with the same data. That's something we've never had before.
They've actually got the levers to affect that.
Correct.
And going back, Ryan, what used to be the way you were talking about, we used to batch things at night. Can you add into what Bart's saying there?
Well, he's talking about data visibility from a perspective of culminating all of the information, the sales, the movement throughout an ecosystem throughout the day. And with an inventory solution, majority of the applications out there, we're the only one that I'm aware of that no longer has a nightly batch run. So instead of being essentially a day behind on what's happened throughout your network and having to wait for the solutions to process, maybe having that bump in the night from the IT team saying the batch run didn't happen, we couldn't fulfill trucks, we couldn't send them out, we've just removed the nightly batch run. Commerce is no longer in a place where we can sit back. Everything's moving much faster, especially post-COVID. So we need to be able to meet our customers and their customers where they are, when they are, right? So it's kind of a buy anywhere, from anywhere approach. Fulfillment's coming in all sorts of shapes and forms. And if you're a day behind on how we replenish our customers or our stores and our network, maybe we've missed that sale. So this is all about saving the sale and providing the best service levels. And the removal of the nightly batch run enables you to replenish intraday.
Yeah, so, I love that other part you had yesterday about how the app is always updating itself. So it might say, stop those trucks from leaving, or don't pack that right away in real time, right. Which to me is, I don't know, that's something out of science fiction. Who could have thought that?
It actually happened in April when the tariffs hit, right? Some of these ships had already come to port and some of the shipments were stopped and being taken to warehouses because all of a sudden the tariff hit.
Wow. Yeah, so in real time.
Mm-hmm.
Miles, what do we do? You don't have to worry about that. So let's see, who else I got? Oh, I could do this with you, Miles. Actually, I'll do this with Miles and Ryan. So we've seen a surge event impact our network that places retail locations at or near out of stocks, i.e. what I just talked about at the beginning of our conversation today. What's a real world example where unification helped avoid a disaster to save a sale? Because retailers love use cases. So I'm actually going to turn it to you, my friend. Miles, what with Pet Supplies Plus? What would be a
Trying to-
real world situation you can think of?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of a recent one. We've, obviously had situations where vendors have capacity issues or there's some type of issue that occurs in their part of the supply chain. And, we have to use our systems and technology to be able to react to it, whether that's rerouting product, whether it's shipping from a different distribution center, whether it's, coming up with an alternative way to get the product that they may not be able to release or get to us. But again, without the technology and without having the Manhattan Active platform available for us to be able to do that, it would be back to the Excel spreadsheet, phone calls, and everything else. And now you're able to look at it in real time and make decisions better, quicker, faster, and typically optimize it so that you're not wasting both time and money, and ultimately satisfying the customer.
That's an interesting point. I'll get to you in just a second with tabs, but because I just found myself thinking, okay, so it goes down. We had the IT, whoops, we didn't batch last night.
Oh, that happens.
And you don't have Manhattan's fantastic system underneath you. So then you go back to just figure it out, right? Just throw it, Miles, figure it out. So then you are, all right? Then you've got to bring the system back to life, but there was this event that happened. I think that's kind of what we're talking about too. Did you want to add something to that?
Well, I wanted to add, so when something like that happens and you have a surge, right now we have the ability real time get a signal, for example, to transportation. Transportation in real time can reroute. It can say, I'm going to change mode and still get that product there on time. That was not something that we had the ability to figure out years ago. It was like we're stuck with that because we set the plan's in stone. We don't react based on real-time data and execution. Now we react almost in real time to things that are happening because we can take that data in and act on it.
See, and that goes back to what Miles said. As soon as you got that plan, it's going to change. Ryan, what did you want to add?
Yeah, the bidirectional capability within Manhattan Active ecosystem speaks in real time. So to Bart and Miles's point, when we get this domino effect, something's been held up, right? It's cascading. So transportation gets impacted, labor gets impacted. Do we have capacity at our distribution centers? Everything's impacted by this. We used to have, floor level practitioners are making a decision as to what's going on a truck versus us being able to leverage data. Now we have the ability to allow the system to go in and say, hey, here are the orders we need to update. Here's why. And then you can go action that. We don't have to be a day behind, hours behind, and we can lean into the application and the data and the science that's there to make the best decisions for the organizations to meet, their service levels and their customer satisfaction.
I mean, I would tell you, we've gotten to the point with the implementation of Manhattan Active TM that right now we're able to notify our stores when a shipment leaves a distribution center, give them a link to track it real time, and let them watch the truck as it comes to their store. We're primarily multi-stop truckload, so they can see when it gets to the first stop, second stop. We give them updates. We're pretty close to being to the point that when we geofence it and they get within whatever time we determine, 10, 15 minutes from the store, we can also ping the store or call the store and let them know the truck's coming, be at the back door to meet it. So, I mean, that's the level of sophistication and precision that having all of the data in one platform and having it readily available at our fingertips has given us the opportunity that wouldn't have been there 2, 3, 4 years ago or more.
And I imagine Manhattan could then go into your HR program probably and say, now take these 3 other people and get them in there because you're going to have to get those trucks to be unloaded quicker and figure all that out. This isn't on our questions today, but my nephew works for a very large retailer, let's just say, in meat and produce. And he talked about all the little things in produce, how many SKUs there are in produce and, small this and small that. And I would think every retailer is the same. And I'm just wondering, the era of 2025, have we created too many SKUs to be able to really be effective at? What would you say?
I'd say yes. We saw it in COVID where quite a few companies actually reduced the number of SKUs. That was one strategy they did, mainly manufacturers, to reduce the challenges of COVID. So if you have less raw materials coming in, just look at your top sellers and just focus on those. And of course, it's different, right? Because as a retailer, you have the retailers that have tens of thousands of SKUs, and then you have the big stores, right, who only have 1,000. But they still have a lot of challenges, right? Because it's bigger volumes hitting them. And if you have one truckload missed, that's a much larger impact than if you have a truckload missed, but that has like 1,000 SKUs in it, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Miles, do you have too many SKUs?
I don't think so. I believe we're appropriately skewed in our particular industry, but in general, I would agree that as more retailers try to service the exact needs of multiple customers, you get SKU proliferation, and As a result, now you're managing many more of them, and every one of them has a different stocking area or location, pick zone, and it just increases the complexities, not linearly, but exponentially.
That's a great point, because you've seen grocery stores now carrying hardware and furniture and all, like, well, we've got them anyway. Let's just keep adding it to it. Anything to add to that, Ryan?
SKU justification and review is always an interesting process for an organization to go through, evaluating your index, your category adjacencies, and whether or not you're getting uplift from like or similar products. So each organization is going to approach the problem a little differently as what's meaningful to their business. Some organizations want a lot of variety and options, and others want to be precision focused. And I think we've got core examples of that specific to retail. Some people are known for the depth and breadth of their assortments, and others want a more consolidated, concise turnover of that.
I'm wondering if you don't have that visibility into what happened, you may make these assumptions, because like we were talking about earlier, Ryan, we make assumptions based on, well, that's not a good seller. Well, did you realize that the container never arrived, or the DC, did something to them and they never made it into the system? I mean, all of those questions are what supply chain experts have to deal with every day. And
even on the front end of that, one of the things I learned many years ago from the founder of a very large dollar store chain, he looked at me and said, "Miles, the toughest decision a buyer has to make is what not to buy, because they want to buy everything."
Right.
And he said it straight faced, very serious. He said, "You just need to be able to be prepared to react to it, because they're going to want to buy everything." So.
Yeah, I think you're right, Ryan. So we've talked about tech, we've talked about visibility. I mean, what's changed to make unification finally possible? I mean, obviously Manhattan Associates is brilliant, we get that, but what's changed to allow this? Because you couldn't even imagine this, Miles, the systems you're using every day, even probably 5 years ago, right? So what's changed to make that happen?
So for us, the move and migration of supply chain planning onto the active architecture really enabled the unification story here. I don't think everybody, when we go through our day-to-day, thinks of a forecast, an inventory forecast driving so many components, but it's intricately related to our warehousing, our forecasting, and our transportation. It really is the underlying driver of all of these different areas of the business. And so the migration of supply chain planning has really unlocked key capabilities that organizations are going to need in the future and need right now. But that's the big change and the big value driver. The ecosystem itself has the forecast now driving it, and we have visibility unlike anything we've ever had before.
And it's not based on a hope, it's based on reality. We love that. All right, wrap up question for us. So what's one outdated process retailers need to kill off this year if they want to win in this new world? Wow, that's a pretty dramatic way to write that, Robert. So whoever wants to start first has to kill off, not just like stop using. What is some outmoded process? Outdated process.
Wow, that's a good one.
I can take one for the team here. Excel. I think we joked about that earlier. It serves a great purpose. It's a very good supplemental tool, but it's not going to generate a true forecast, logistics, or labor plan for you. We're moving too quickly. Commerce is moving too quickly to rely on Excel to help you reach the next level. It's not going to help you achieve that next unlock for your organization. You might be great at writing macros, but the core capabilities within these applications are light years ahead of what you're going to get out of your Excel.
Nice.
Yeah, I think what I would say is along those same lines, whether it's Excel or it's the process itself, I think what I would like to see retailers kill off is that siloed, independent planning and execution phase, and start working more collaboratively and leverage technology that will allow them to do it, so they can get rid of that antiquated, individual siloed process.
I would add in marketing should be in this conversation too, because we make the plan. We're going to sell all these widgets. I got a great ad that's coming out. And then we kind of think of, oh yeah, did we mention it to the warehouse? Did we have enough product? Yeah. Who cares? We got the ads, we're ready to go, right? I mean, there's a certain hierarchy within retailers.
That never happens, by the way.
Never. Yeah, I just made that up. It was random.
That's the thing, right? Sales kind of makes the promise. Supply chain execution has to make it happen.
Which is why it's always your fault, my friend.
That's right.
That's why it's your fault.
And people understand that now. They understand the importance of supply chain, which 5 years ago, people, unless you were in it, didn't see that.
Yeah, and all of these conversations that people are having around boardrooms right now about supply chain, yes, tariffs is an issue because today it has a tariff, tomorrow it doesn't. How do we add this in? How do we not add this in? But more importantly, that material that's coming in or not coming in the supply chain now has a level of volatility we've never seen before. Would you agree with that?
100% agility.
And so without those systems to look into the data, you're going to end up being frightened, excited, and I forgot what was yours?
Agile.
And agile. There you go. All right. So Bob Fitz, the retail doc for Manhattan Associates. Thanks for our guest today for joining us for this. And make sure that you follow Manhattan Associates because they've got other videos, more experts to help you figure out how do we get supply chain into 2025 and out of Excel.